piece of land there that borders on one of the, how do I say this? My geography is not bad. Gee, you've got to help me out here. It's not a lake, but it's like it's along the coast. And then it's like a huge, big inlet. So a bay, that's what they call it here. And it goes like this. We think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and fall apart again. It is just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, room for relief, room for misery, room for joy. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing.
And I'll use your words, Heinz. Sorry, Chi.
Is it called Shambhala?
She is part. Sorry, Chi.
Is it called Shambhala?
She is
in Nova Scotia.
I'm just wondering what her school is called. It could be because she's part of that lineage, the Shambhala lineage, as far as I remember.
Yeah. A friend I have a friend who lives in Nova Scotia, and he's been part of the Shambhala since he was a child.
Wow.
Yeah. His name is I don't know if you know him. His name is Bobby Boyle.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Robert Boyle.
Robert Boyle. Okay. I don't know him, no.
But he's been at there was this Tibetan man, yeah. He went there and he started his Shambhala.
Okay. And she must have joined him then. I'm sure they must be I'm sure it must be the same place, G, because as far as I know, there's only one Tibetan school there. Yeah. Wow, what a coincidence, eh? But Heinz, what I was going to say also, in addition, I was thinking, as we've been laughing over the last few weeks about the ego, and as I was reading it now, I was thinking, and room for the ego to be noisy. Because she puts all these contrasts.
Good one. Yeah, but if you give it room to be noisy, then you don't need to focus on it. It has its own room.
That's right. That's exactly it.
Like Jesus says, my Father's place has many rooms.
what I also love about that quote is that when I read it, I can feel myself being the observer. And watching and seeing all the incredible creations that take place, with making room for it all. It's sometimes very hard to do that when there's a lot of pain and destruction involved. It's actually always hard.
It's hard to feel fear and pain and love at the same time.
Yes.
And hatred and yeah, you're absolutely right. When we let go of fear and pain and just be the observer.
Yeah. And receiver, hey, Chi.
Mm-hmm.
Because then we receive universal love and compassion.
We still need to learn how to filter it all. It's hard to observe and receive without observing and receiving whatever their programming is.
Correct. I'm just linking something now. I wrote about the breathing in and the breathing out, and feeling the vibration of the in and the out breath. And there's a difference. There's a gap for me now. It's not big, but it's small. I just appreciate that it can be there, put it that way. And it's between what I'm feeling in an emotion and what I can feel of the universal vibration at the same time. So I can notice the emotion, or that, let's say, that emotion can sometimes be the wobble, right? So it hits me, especially when it's fear and pain. And then my body comes when I allow it, when I observe the experience of the wobble, then I can feel the vibration, the universal vibration, and then it's not as constricted. to use Heinz's word, there's more expansion. And being in silence with people that are choosing a path of compassion is probably one of the most important things for me today. I mean, when I managed to do that observation and be in that space of watching, then I can feel the core of myself. And I can feel the strength of it. And that inevitably widens into the compassion. And then we can choose when we breathe and remember. We can choose to remember, to remind ourselves to feel the miracle of the body. Made up of trillions and trillions of cells.
So when we're observing, we're at peace, yeah. Like pain is real. Yeah, when we have so much pain that we can't walk, can't talk, we can't write our own name, and pain can, yeah, oh, I forgot the word, but yeah, but when we observe the pain, the everything changes.
It gives it opportunity to change. Yes.
Yeah.
And just that split second
Yeah.
of being able to observe slowly starts to move it more and more each time we go into that observation.
Yeah, like yesterday I had so much headache, it, at the back of the head, like somebody was hitting me with a hammer.
Yeah.
Really extreme pain. I couldn't sleep, but then I decided to observe the pain and not just saying to myself that I'm going to observe the pain.
That's incredible.
And then I just saying to myself, I will not. If I get to 1 hour sleep, it's okay. 2 hours, okay. I'm not pressing it. Not any pressure.
That's really amazing, Chi.
As we observe the pain, we create the opportunity not to identify with it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Because I haven't had much sleep. My wife has been sick for the last 3 days and coughing all night and I lack some sleep. But I said to myself, whether not attached too much to whether I get enough sleep or not.
So I'll tell you what Jesse said to me after a few weeks of being on the course where he was, doing coaching, because I was exhausted. And I wasn't getting enough sleep, partly because I was excited and, felt a pressure to make sure that I got everything right for the course. I haven't been on a course like that for many years. And he said to me, when you go to sleep, remind yourself, make sure that you're aligned. So feel yourself aligning all parts of you. And then ask your body to rest. And it stayed with me because every now and then I have, especially actually with full moon, I usually don't sleep. And then I can just rest and I'm fine with it. I usually just go into meditation space.
It's so important not to take all the drama with us to sleep.
Yes, yes, very important. And to think that we can do that, right? We've got the capacity to do that.
Well, thank you. I will remember that one.
You're welcome.
Is it normal for high-level people to be affected by the moon?
Sorry,
a lot of people I know have moon. A lot of people I know that are pretty high level have moon fever. Every time the full moon is up, they get less and less sleep. Even some, my brother, don't sleep at all.
Yeah. I wonder with you guys, you're at a much higher latitude than what we are. I wonder if the experience of the magnetic pull gets stronger as you get closer to the North Pole.
Okay. It's probably why I don't follow the moon. I sometimes have a sleepless night, but I don't go out and look if it's full moon or anything. I don't want to identify with anything. Take it as an experience.
Yes. took me years to figure out why sometimes it was just out of the blue. It felt like I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'm going to share an experience from a dream that I had before we immigrated to Canada, or before I did. My husband is Canadian. And the dream started with me sitting on top of a roof, watching the ocean. And for everybody, I think, when you stand and watch the ocean, you're kind of in a state of awe. And within very few minutes, as it feels like in dreams, I saw this huge tidal wave coming. And of course, the closer it came, the bigger it was. And I sat there looking at it. I stood up and I thought to myself, oh shit, this I did not anticipate. And then I was awake. And just before I woke up, I had a real lucid moment in dreaming. And the experience was, I don't know if I made it. And then I thought, well, you must have, because you're wondering whether you made it. And then I woke up. And because of my work, I'm not a dream analyst, but I, do a little bit of dream work. And for me, it's always important. The feelings that you have in the dream are important, but how do you wake up? Because it's an indication of what you have available to you. And I was fine. So it presented the opportunity from going from real expansiveness to absolute terror, and then being okay and okay enough. And I could get on with my day. And, part of it then was getting everything ready for immigration. So I'll leave you guys with that. I'm sad, but I have to go. I've got a lovely 13-year-old to meet this morning again.
Yay.
So I'll have
you.
a good day. Thanks so much.
Give her a lot of love and support.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Allison was working with me yesterday after our session. What I became aware of was a even more fundamental pattern to more people. As my specific was punishment. Like that is what I feel it. That's what I feel it as. But to take it, to go one step deeper with it, is that it's my move to avoid it. So avoiding punishment. So it's the avoiding, it's right before the avoiding. And so I just, rather than love, and so love and punishment for me, right? I go a little bit further, is like avoiding a conflict. avoiding a punishment, avoiding consequences. I think the key is like, and it was brought in is like love, right? Love comes together, holds together. It's like, yeah, together is loving. It's like the space to be together is love. And the other side of that is avoiding. Avoiding.
Often when you avoid, you create self-punishment instead. Oh, why did I do that? The ego. Well, you were protecting me, but now I got this bad taste in my mouth for lying.
Right. Then that follows revenge. For me, I think. And it's like,
I'm so
I think,
brought it up. Yeah.
And
I'm so grateful for you.
Pain, I think, brings up revenge as well. Go ahead, Chi.
I grew up with punishment too, where I was punished severely. So I'm very grateful for you bringing that up, so I can come to peace with with myself too.
Yeah.
All these patterns coming from fear of judgment, fear of punishment.
Yeah. It is all fear.
Mm.
And hard to see.
Yeah, when you're in fear mode, you're not the opposite side of the scale. It's the hardest on the other side.
That's right. And fear is like all the blood goes to the guts, right, to the stomach, to preserve, to protect, where it goes to all the extremities to avoid, to get away from, right? Man, it's not the thinking. The thinking isn't there. So, well, how do you respond when you're startled? When someone scares you, what happens? We jump.
You're like deer in front of a headlight. You freeze up.
Or we jump, right? Don't we? Do you jump when something scares you?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a startled, like, oh, it's like we do that. And so like that's a pattern. And so what I say is, well, stop that pattern. Change that pattern. How would you do it? First of all, you tell me why. And it's like, well, to understand what change takes. It's just not flipping the light switch and saying, oh, that's what I'll do. Because you can say all you want. You'll say, oh, I won't jump the next time I'm scared or frightened or like something startles me. No, I won't jump. Yeah, try it. Only by putting ourselves in that situation and saying, oh, well, if that happens, I would do this. Oh, well, if that happens, I would do this. And it doesn't happen frequently enough. And so we'll punish people that are trying to do that. Sorry, punishment. Let me use another word. It's not a punishment, it's consequences.
The most free-minded and freedom-loving, the one who comes most.
I'm sorry, Chi, I couldn't hear that. You moved muffled away.
Sorry, yeah. But, I wonder why some are punished more than others. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think this appears the fear. Like it almost, I think it's a revenge. That's my experience. I hurt, so you hurt. To me, that would be a pattern.
And it's all about getting even.
In revenge, yes.
Yeah.
For the Punisher, it's about control, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And what is control?
It's the greatest illusion.
So why control?
Out of fear.
I think so. That's what I was holding.
Mm. So it's sort of like an internal loop unless you choose to break it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Choose to see it. Aware, which is what we call aware. Aware of it. Aware that it has us. Aware that startles us and we jump.
And then when we jump, we should just keep our mouth shut.
Yeah, right. Like,
Think
but
twice.
no, yeah, it's like, it's like, I know it's a crazy example, but I mean, it is the example of patterns.
Just like Bart in The Simpsons. No matter what happens, I didn't do it.
Right.
His
Right.
denial, even if it's something good, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? But it's his first answer anyway.
Avoiding.
Yep.
It may not be someone's dominant pattern, but they have one. Control. Yeah, thanks, Chi.
And often when we try to have control, we lose our self-control. That's the only thing that actually matters.
Yeah, we're supposed to control ourselves and not other people.
It's the only thing we actually have a little control over.
Mm-hmm.
Because afterwards, a good argument, you ask yourself, what made me say that? It's total loss of self-control, an argument. It's that ego wanna be right.
Yeah.
Good morning, Craig.
Morning, Craig.
Happy winter solstice, everyone.
Oh yeah,
Craig.
21st.
Shortest day of the year. But it's still 24 hours.
What's that?
Shortest day of the year, like they say, but it's still 24 hours.
Yes, it is. It's the one day or the one of 2 days in the year where everything comes to a complete stop.
That's right. Son of a bitch.
So you take advantage of that energy.
June's the other time, right?
Right. It's like being on a swing when you were a kid. It's the end where you touch the sky.
It's the top of a vibration or the bottom of it.
It's the top of it, yeah. Yeah. It's as high as the pendulum goes. And this year it coincides with a Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury is slowed right down to a stop too, relative to the Earth. And there's a conjunction of the Moon and Jupiter.
So what is Mercury's meaning?
Mercury is communication and technology. So it's like, communication. So expect a lot of downloads today, insights. Things to complicate or things to contemplate.
And then Jupiter Moon connection. Well, what does that mean?
Jupiter is the planet of rewards and abundance. And the moon tends to be emotional light that's bounced off the sun. So it's kind of like sun energy and it's feminine. So you could say emotional abundance or something like that. The cool thing is with Jupiter and the moon is when you go out tonight, take a look at the sky, you can see them right next to each other. And the moon is about a quarter. It's the first quarter. And it's a waxing moon, which means put back in. So it's a fresh start if you want it.
I think I do. Embracing consequences.
Yep. So you can catch that wave as it stops, and then from here on it's going to build momentum until the equinox.
That's in June.
Nope. That's in April.
Equinox. April.
March.
April. That's the okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
That's the highest
that's when they're
point,
equal.
right?
That's the lowest point.
Lowest.
Is it when it starts all over, right?
Yeah, if you think of the swing, you go to the highest point you can on the swing, and you reach the sky, and then it's momentary stop, and then you come back down into the bottom, right to the bottom of the swing, so you're back to the ground again. That's equinox. And then from there it'll start slowing down again. So from now till March, it's forward momentum.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
You ready for some of that, Chi?
Yeah, I think me and Heinz, we have some projects in our mind, you know. When it's time for manifesting eternal abundance, and we have to put some intentions out there. Hopefully, Heinz and I will get a piece of land, start some permaculture, you know, our dream.
Say that. So I heard land.
Yeah, and then we have a dream. You have food forest and yeah, that in permaculture.
Something with a lot of dirt under the fingernails each day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Growing
Like to get
food.
started.
Feet on the grass. Don't need to put on shoes. There are no glass or anything.
Planting
because
trees.
Giving back to nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep in mind this is the opposite in the southern hemisphere. So they're having the longest day today. The most amount of sunshine. Yeah. Yeah. We're having the least and they're having the most. South America, South Africa. Yeah. Yeah. Summer.
Yeah, it's really hot in Australia. I think it's 40 degrees Celsius or something like that.
Yeah.
Craig, what would you call the role of enforcing consequences?
Mm.
And so in that is different than punishments somehow.
Yeah. I don't know that consequences can be avoided.
No, I don't. How about enforced?
Oh, yeah. I don't know that they can be enforced either.
Mm.
In the same vein, like how do you know what I mean?
I do. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. I mean, because we have choice, we can create different consequences. But some of the after effects appear anyway.
Mm-hmm. Outcomes, right? It's outcomes. So if we're not going to call them punishment, we'll just call it outcomes. We're not going to call it consequences. We'll just call it outcomes.
Yeah, that's probably a more accurate word.
And the outcomes are all choices that follow, that come with.
No, they're consequences of choices.
The cascade.
But how they affect you depends on your attitude. Like, depends on attitude and perspective, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Colony of defense. You have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the people who have the role of the punisher in the society, they're mostly just following order, blindly following, not thinking of the consequence. They don't care about the consequence.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, you can choose to be ignorant of what you're causing.
That's what's wrong with this world, you know. All those people blindly following order.
And we could say we follow patterns, not in a. I'm not talking like. I'll talk it is in relationships that matter. So we're just doing the pattern that we know to do.
And the ego is the commanding officer.
Oh boy, ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Giving the marching orders, right? Now, what would it mean to embrace consequences?
Then you can go back and change the course.
That would be something different, wouldn't it? It's the perspective.
Yeah.
I hear Craig, you say it's a way to shift the perspective of it. Yeah, shift it from
Yeah.
a punishment, from a consequence to some sort of experience.
Well, it's still a consequence. I mean, you can't really change the consequence, but you can change how you see it.
Mm-hmm.
You can change how you experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Change from defending to listening.
You can choose to see value.
Get the perspective of the other person's point of view.
Can't hear you, Heinz.
Get the perspective of another person's point of view.
Yeah, and that other person can be you. Well, it can. I mean, seriously. You can intentionally change your point of view.
So the pattern of consequence that I'm in is being ignored, iced out, not acknowledged, not there, right?
Well, or outright avoided. Yes.
That's another, exactly. So right, how to avoid it. That is the consequence.
But doesn't it take reframing to change the consequence?
Yeah. I'm working to embrace that pattern, right? Because I see the pattern as a result of, yes, my choice, of my bad choice. I don't want that bad choice to play again, so I've got to pull apart the patterns so that it doesn't happen again. And it's just not my pattern. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't your choice either. Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's always my choice, but here's the choice we were working with, Craig, is when you are startled, how does your body respond? Like somebody jumps out and scares you.
Yeah, it's a reflex.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you to now stop that.
Can't.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you better do it this time. And if you don't, well, here's the consequences.
Mm. Well,
Right?
isn't that an insight?
Right?
Yep. That's what I was confronted with over the last 3 years. That's exactly what I was confronted with.
Yep.
Me too.
Yep. And just like we turn off and on that light switch, you need to do that too. I don't. I've got mine all under control, but you have to.
Yeah. I don't know, after 3 years of research in this area, I don't know that there's any way to turn off a reflex.
Well, like you spoke about it, if it happens enough times frequently with the intention to do that, it eventually does. You can put a new thing in its place. You think about it, like if you practice it being scared and you intentionally practice it, you bet you could get to a point where you wouldn't respond. I mean, look at our special operations. I mean, they're conditioned to respond completely different than most people.
Mm.
So yes, it can be trained and conditioned with a lot of focus, and what it means is it has to happen over and over and over. We call that learning. And it's only five
but how do
times.
you?
Like it's only, you only have to do it 5 times, right? And then you're guaranteed. No, not at all. Being
No,
facetious, because it's completely different for everyone,
no.
except for those that are perfect.
Yeah.
Except for the light switches.
Who wants to be perfect? That must be so boring. You can't
Well,
make
I
anything
don't,
better.
here, I think what's more important, Heinz, and you said it earlier, is that they're right.
Yeah, in their mind.
Isn't it?
Who's
Isn't
right?
isn't that being perfect? It's like the the person wanting, desiring, demanding the change is right.
Yeah. Well, they have to be in order to. Yeah.
That's my point.
It is the habitual patterns that controlling us.
Right. That we're unaware of.
Yeah.
Imagine two people that are unaware of their patterns in that situation. Holy shit.
Then we're on a warpath. Ego versus ego.
Yes, that doesn't work.
Like they say, something have to give, or someone. They actually have to do the right thing, find out what's best for both parties, even though none of them is actually 100% right then. A common cooperation for a better journey together.
So I am going to embrace the consequences. I'm going to engage with them with compassion, as much compassion as I can, and not the revenge, because my automatic is revenge. So I'm going to invite the avoidance. I'm going to sit in the avoidance. I'm going to sit in the ignoring. I'm going to sit in the non-existence and just be there. Look at that. There's my revenge laugh.
Reawakening the passion.
Yeah. Like that can only be through the pain. And the more that if I sit and avoid it, right, it's just going to drag it out. Doesn't mean I have to. So what I can say is that I would remove myself from the situation so that that pattern didn't have to play out. Well, I need to have the pattern play out faster and further, and like I need to invite the pattern to come out, to be confronted. I confront the pattern. Quote, the consequence, right? I trigger the consequence.
Every action has a reaction.
Yeah. And noticing when we're playing our automatic, right? When we can be aware of that, we can change it.
The automatic is based on assumptions. We assume the other party will do so if we do that, so we don't tell them we did that.
And asked, that's what I'm doing. I'm embracing my consequences. You're icing me out. I'm embracing it right here with you. I'm going to sit in the ice. See how that goes.
So I don't get it. What does this have to do with a fright response? Like being frightened?
They're all patterns.
Yeah, they're all patterns, but that's very different.
No,
If you're being,
I'm talking about, well, in the changing the frightened pattern. That's what I'm. So what do you do between you're frightened at this point and then 6 months from now you're going to be frightened again and you don't want that response again? What do you do in that time frame? You look at the pattern between it, right? It's too simple of an analogy to tie it to what the pattern that I'm working with here, Craig.
okay,
My point to it was, if my drinking problem is like is like being scared, like that's a response, like if alcoholism is like being scared, it's like stop being an alcoholic, stop being scared. Like that's the expectation, that's the demand, that's the request.
Yeah. But drinking is just a coping mechanism.
In a pattern and a choice.
Well, that becomes a pattern. Yes.
And that is, and that's the pattern that's in my marriage that I'm wanting to change. And so to look at all the cascades of it, the whole cycle has to, like, I'm in it to change it.
Yeah.
So to understand all the patterns that lead to the next one, that's what I'm working to be aware of, so that that next one doesn't happen. So that when I get scared again, right, I don't react with that frightened, with that scare, with that scream. I don't reach for a beer and crack it and drink it.
Right. But it's not about the beer. It's about what stimulated you to need the beer.
Oh yes. Oh. And now we're going deeper.
Oh yeah.
You can look at it like in the Matrix. They say to Nemo, if you get out right here, you've been down that road 1,000 times. You know exactly where it is.
Yep. And it's not only just one pattern, it's two patterns, but one pattern says, I don't have a pattern, it's your pattern. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what I imagine, two of us in that place. That is a war. And it has been a war. And it previously, and it continues like, yes, like it's progressing. I say, the other party will say no. Because when you're frightened, you still jump. As the metaphor. And it's like a yeah. So there's you bet, Craig, there's something deeper in that response, because I go for it when things are good. Like in our relationship, good on the surface, but I mean it's not deep enough for either one of us.
So your relationship stays shallow.
Yep. And then we can blame it on that.
Fear of exposure or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fear of true connection.
Ooh, there's something there.
Yep.
So is this
Fear of authentic connections, right?
fear of authentic, but but the thing is that like you're looking for something to blame. Looking for something that's responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
But because everything's surfacey, you can't even explore that.
Mm-hmm. Or like avoiding the conflict, avoiding the landmine, avoiding like walking on eggshells to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Stepping around the elephant in the room.
Which, like, that's been a 17-year pattern.
Yep.
Both ways. You know, no blame, just a pattern that's there because our marriage is a pattern. Because it's two people that have patterns that have come together and built patterns between them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to confront the pattern without sitting down and talking about it.
Well, it's also hard to confront a pattern when you're not in a complete stop. Which is probably why we're talking about this today.
But seeing the patterns helps us working with them because we
Mm-hmm.
changed it from being subconscious to going to the consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think, right, I think it's called icing your partner out. Isn't that what it is? I don't think that's the technical term for it, but
Yeah, it's an avoidance tactic.
mm-hmm.
A protection mechanism.
Protection. Yeah.
One of the continents in defense, or countries in defense.
Yes. Well, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's what you do before defending yourself, even.
Yeah. So what do you go knock on the border? Just sit there and knock till the door is answered, huh?
Mm.
With compassion, not revenge.
That's where the word patience comes into work.
And compassion, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. And resolution
hmm
and
Eventually,
reconciliation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm,
See, the problem is when these things don't resolve,
Yep.
when there's not the room or the opportunity to allow them to resolve
Yep.
themselves.
You cover them up.
Yeah. 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 So it
That's
stays stuck in your system.
that's the automatic pattern that has been ingrained, and it's like, okay, looking at all of them to say, okay, new patterns here that are building up to that, because that is not what I want. So with that, it is time for me to go embrace the consequences, to go and experience them fully, all in with compassion,
Yeah.
and just explore and just see what happens.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, if you can, don't blame the pattern,
No,
because it's the pattern isn't at fault.
We have to start a new pattern of doing our best every day.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. It's the contents of the pattern that need to change, not the pattern.
Taking responsibility instead of being right.
Your best is not always the same. It depends on your health and your.
Our best changes each day.
Yeah. Yeah. The two of you have an advantage together in that way, Jesse, because if I understand it, you both had were using alcohol as a coping mechanism when you first met her, and you kind of united around that.
It was what's acceptable in the society. Alcohol is a drug, and it's legal. And,
Yeah, but that's not the point, Heinz. The point is that for both of them it was their drug of choice. It was their coping mechanism of choice. So you got to go deeper than that. You got to go, okay, so before alcohol, what was the coping mechanism before that?
Yeah.
What was the protection reflex, or what was the, or even go back further than that and say, what was it that spooked you in the first place?
Yeah.
Where you decided you had to adopt a pattern to cope.
Yeah.
So that's the initial fright.
Yeah. Well,
You all have a
it's
better
all
day.
about. Thank you.
You know,
Bye,
before
guys.
alcohol.
Love and hugs.
Love and hugs. Thanks.
Love and hugs, everybody.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
Have a
Okay,
great day.
have
Take care.
have a great day, everybody. Love and hugs.
Bye.